everyone. Welcome to our premiere show called Meet to Motivate, and you're going to find out why we called it Meet to Motivate at the end of the show. But thank you all for joining in, for our panelists for joining in, and of course, all the guests that are coming on board. Feel free to join. Do come on and mute yourself so that you will all have a chance to share your views on this very interesting topic that we've selected for today. But we want to first begin with our panelists that have worked very hard, spending the last few months researching what they want to share. So let's begin the show. So welcome. And for those who don't know me, I'm Renu. I'm the founder of Building Women Empowered. I'm also the founder of Genius Kids, a child's franchise program. I'm a speaker and an author of 2 bestseller books as well, one on women empowerment and one on children. And one of the reasons I started Building Women Empowered is my goal was, as I'm getting close to retirement, I just celebrated my 62th birthday last week, is I really wanted to get a forum where we can bring women from all around the world together. I call it a tribe, get everyone together in one place where we can share ideas, connect with each other, network with each other, and promote the sense of what I call self-worth. I feel that's very important. We already know that women are born physically very strong, but we have to deal with many, many issues, societal pressure, old myths, different ideas. And for that reason, it is so important to bring a tribe of women together who can share and exchange their experiences and vision, because that's how you learn. And that's exactly what Meet to Motivate is going to be. It's going to be one of those forums where you can address stigmas that are affecting our community at large, and especially women. So we hope that today's show is a success with your support, and we invite women from all walks of life, from all parts of the world, just like we have today on our show, to join and share our views. So on that note, I want to begin by introducing our panelists. And then from there, I'll give you the household rules before we begin the show. So first and foremost, let me begin by introducing Ashima. Ashima's from Kenya. She's tuned in 3 o'clock in the morning from Kenya. And she's done a computer studies course and started a career at 41 because she was a housewife for a long, long time. And now she was in logistics for 7 years, and now a regional head of East and Central Africa for VFS Global Kenya. So welcome, Ashima. Welcome to the show. Are you there? Where did Ashima disappear? I think she was here.
Yes, I'm very much here.
Okay, there you go, Ashima. Yeah. So she's tuned in from Nairobi, and Ashima and I actually went to school when we were little munchkins together, from I think the age of 5 onwards at Loreto Convent. And then, of course, we went our separate ways when we were teenagers, and we hooked up last year after what, 40 years?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's been
wonderful. The best part of it.
Yeah. So welcome to the show. And that's Ashima, tuned in from Kenya, Africa, one of the most amazing places. If you haven't been, definitely want to go. And if you are going to go through Dubai, because you can shop in Dubai. All right. Our next panelist is Anjana. Anjana, are you there, madam? Where is Miss Anjana? There she is. So Miss Anjana, cybersecurity engineering leader by profession, but a woman of varied interests and passion that includes fashion, modeling, dancing, and cooking up world cuisine. And she just celebrated my birthday on Friday with a Moroccan theme. And I'm telling you, I'm still thinking of that food that she served. So it was amazing. And she strives to be a role model with her can-do attitude and believes in dream, believe, and take action. So welcome.
And my focus for today is going to be talking about narcissism in the workplace. So focus more on technology.
Perfect. Thank you. And then we have Anjina. Anjina is born and raised in Scotland, completed her degree in podiatric medicine, but only to practice for a short period due to finding strength in healthcare management. And now she's had over 15 years of experience, with her last venture being with Stanford Healthcare Cardiology. And I believe she's local in the Bay Area.
Am.
So, right, Anjina?
Yes, I am in the East Bay, San Ramon. So thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be part of the panel today. And I'm going to be focusing on narcissism in friendship.
Thank you so much. And as you can already see, for all who are tuning in, that we have women from all walks of life, and you're going to continue to meet some amazing women. Then, of course, we have our very own Miss NRI Global Beauty, Gauri, who I go back from when she was a young girl. So I am actually starting to feel very old. Gauri is a Wharton graduate and a business executive. She is an activist for very many causes, and she's learned the hard way that a lot of empaths attract narcissists and would love to help others benefit from her experiences. And Gauri is today sitting tuned in from India, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah, she's our local girl, but she's decided to go to India. We'll find out later why. So welcome to the show, Gauri.
Thank you, Renu.
And then let's, who does not know our local singer, performer, lead vocalist with Andaz Creations? If you haven't heard our local Lata Mangeshkar, then you've got to listen to her at one of our shows. We have the very beautiful Kanika. She's a proud member of Building Women Empowered and totally believes in its mission and values. And her main reason for being here on the panel is to be able to share and support others. And although she says she's not a direct victim of narcissism, she wants to extend her support to others. So welcome, Kanika.
Thank you so much, Renuji, for having me on this show. Thank you, everyone. Excited.
Maybe you'll sing us a song at the end of the show, right?
Sure.
Find a song that's from one of those Hindi movies that's about narcissism, and then you can sing it.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, and then our next panelist is Dr. Kushi. She's a medicine doctor turned data professional. Her background is in healthcare, which has given her a very unique perspective on psychology and the ability to understand human behavior. So welcome, Dr. Kushi.
Thank you, Renu, for the intro. And it's my pleasure to be part of this panel discussion.
And Dr. Kushi is choosing, I think, to show her very beautiful picture instead of her face today. She's not feeling, she's feeling under the weather. And so
Yes.
you can find her
Sorry
on our
about that.
Facebook if you, but thank you.
You can
Thank
always go and check my Facebook profile. So today I'll be focusing on how to spot a narcissist and handle the situation. Though it's not personal experience, but I can help with some knowledge.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And then now we have Nina Randhawa. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist with specialization in access to personal disorders with 15 years experience in the mental health industry. Welcome, Nina.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I specialize in access to personality disorders, which narcissistic personality disorder falls under that. Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mhm.
And then we have Ranjita. Ranjita is a counselor advocate at the nonprofit organization called Casa de Esperanza. Excuse me if I say or pronounce anything wrong. And she's here to discuss narcissism and sharing her own personal story as well of how she has managed to overcome this. So welcome to the show, Ranjita.
Thank you, Reniji. Thank you so much.
And then we have my partner in crime today, who's also the co-host for the show, Ragini. Ragini is a co-founder of My Positivity Matters, and she's very passionate about building a platform that makes personal transformation accessible. And she's also, of course, as I said, the co-host and the technical coordinator for the show. So if anything messes up today, it's all her fault, not mine.
So much, Renu, for the introduction and having me here. I'm really excited.
Thank you. And then we have Tanya. Tanya is a co-author for an anthology, Enchantments. And she makes up for a volatile combination of media and law, and her accomplishments already brimming with talent forum, which she feels is like a drop in the I'm not going to try and say this word because I'm dyslexic.
Magnanimous.
Magnanimous. I'm dyslexic. You should have saved me from that word. And she's coming here to share many views from her different walks of life. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
No problem. And then we have Charan. Charan is a real estate entrepreneur owning several RE/MAX offices in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And she's also a public speaker and business coach, currently studying to be the Robbins, is it Madanis? Madanis trained coach. She also serves on the board of directors for the Indian American Women Entrepreneur Association. Welcome to the show, Charan.
Thank you so much.
And last but not least, we have Sheena, who happens to be my younger daughter. Sheena is a South Asian psychotherapist from Sacramento, but today she's tuned in from Seattle. She's a reigning president of the GGU Psychology Club and recently has been awarded, I'm not going to try and say this, Sheena, Fanstell Fellowship. And as a first-generation American and a woman of color, and the founder of the popular Instagram account, The Brown Girl Therapist, she's going to be sharing her experience today. So that's my little preemie. I call her my preemie. All right. I think I covered everybody. Did I miss anybody? We're all good, right? So thank you so much. And thank you again to all those who are tuning in. A few household rules. Please keep yourself muted until it is your turn to talk. We'll be completing our initial rounds with our panelists, and then we will open up the forum to all those who are tuned in. In the meantime, if you want to share any comments or you want to really say something and you just can't hold yourself to the end, you can raise your hand, but we would prefer that you hold your comments and whatever you want to share till the end, when we will give you an opportunity. And of course, if you have any questions, you can post them because Ragini will be reading those out. And please just remember, this show is about building relationships with people. And even though we are addressing a very sensitive topic, there will be no personal attack on anyone. So if you're going to be sharing a personal experience, please, no name calling at all. This is meant to be a very healthy discussion. And time is of the essence, so please be sensitive to your time. As women, we all love to talk, you know, especially myself, but still we need to control our time limit because we all want to wrap up. Some of us are going to see the movie Pathan, so we need to get out of here. And keep an open mind. You know, one of the most important things about building women empowered is to be able to choose to disagree politely. So if you don't agree with what somebody says, that's okay, because we're all here to share our point of view. So today's topic is narcissism. And basically, the reason I picked this topic is I just felt it's very prevalent because I think personally, a lot of us already have a little bit of narcissistic behavior within ourselves. I mean, there's no human that's perfect, but a true narcissist is really somebody that does not regard other people's feelings and kind of controls other people's feelings. And I feel that this is very prevalent because even though as women, we're meant to be compassionate and we're meant to be loving, we do have a lot of women that can be bullies and narcissists. So I'm not an expert on this, but I've surely been a victim of this like many others. And so I'm going to begin the show by starting with round one, which is where each of our panelists will share their own personal experiences on this topic. So on that note, again, please remember that all those who are tuning in and listening to the show, just hold on till the end where we can listen to your story. So let's begin with Ashima. Ashima, any personal experiences or what do you have to say about narcissism? Is Ashima there?
Ashima is on mute.
Ashima, you're on mute. Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, I'm very happy to be on this panel. And being given the opportunity to share my experience. I didn't know the meaning of narcissism and I didn't know what a narcissist is. All I know is when I got married, the first thing that happened on my honeymoon itself, I got bullied. I remember sitting at the table and crying and saying, what the hell am I doing here? So it started from my honeymoon onwards. It got down to him not allowing me to talk to my family. Within 6 months, I got pregnant. He actually blamed me for the pregnancy rather than say, be happy about it, or, oh, you didn't take precautions. I wasn't supposed to. At that time, we were still in the age-old thing of, oh, we have to use the condoms, which he refused to do. So it just went on and on. He started lifting his hands. He would hit me. There were places where there was no logic where he wanted to. And honestly, that was something that I did not understand. I couldn't understand why is he getting angry for little things? Why is he going on about it? Over a period of time, he stopped me from talking to my parents, my family. My kids were born, my son was born, so daughter and then son. When son was born, he had eczema. I was blamed for giving him eczema. So you can imagine the whole saga of being caught in a marriage of continuous blame and continuous violence, whether it was mental or whether it was physical, it was all continuously there. To the point he started now hitting me even in front of the children. Then when he realized that, okay, at some point, I was a very yes woman. Everything was yes, 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 yes. At some point, when he realized that now whatever he was doing to me, whether it was hitting me, whether it was mentally torturing me, whether it was stopping me talking to my family, when he realized that now none of that, I wasn't even reacting to anything of that sort, now he started ill-treating the children. So between the age, the kids were between 5 and 8, he started ill-treating the children. He stopped them from going to school. He would lock us out of the house. At some point, he started hitting me in front of the children. And there was a day when he threw me on the ground, and he was lashing out and kicking me and everything. And the next thing I know is that my son, who was at that time 8 years, he actually, you know, the rolling pin, the Punjabi rolling pin, he took it and he was about to hit my ex on the head. I threw him off and I stopped Ashraf from hitting him, to the point that, well, sorry about this, but anyway, the memories come back and it's not pleasant. Anyway, point is that there was a lot of violence, and I took everything until the time he started ill-treating the children. That's when I said, if you can't be I was in the marriage because he was the father. And I just told myself, I said, if you cannot be a father to my children, then it's time I will go away. I'll be the father, I'll be the mother, even if I have to stay in a one-bedroom house and just be there and be with my children and look after them. I'm ready to do that.
Thank you for sharing your story, Ashima. I mean, I feel your pain, I really do. And I think this reminds me of something I just read in a book about narcissism that said you will never really see how toxic someone is until you breathe the fresh air. And hopefully now you're breathing lots of fresh air.
Completely,
and
yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. And for those who are tuning in, you're joining our Meet to Motivate, our premiere show, where we're discussing how to deal with narcissism. And that was our first panelist sharing her own personal story and journey of a marriage, which I'm sure many, many people who are listening in can relate to, including myself. But I will not share my story today, but thank you so much. Let's move on to Anjana, is going to be sharing what happens in the workplace, because narcissism is not just something that happens at home. It happens all with in-laws. It happens even in the workplace. So over to you, Anjana.
Many of us who work in the IT industry actually kind of know that you'll find a couple of developers that who are really, really strong-headed, and they believe that, you know, they cannot cause any piece of functional problems in the application, and they are not responsible for production issues and whatnot. And come to this, I run an engineering group, which is responsible for shift left, which is DevOps, SRE, release management, and quality engineering, which means that I am responsible for the gatekeeping of what goes out the door into production. And there are thousands and thousands of users and millions of users using it. So typically what ends up happening with such bullheaded developers is that they start to bully my engineers, and they say, oh, this is not a bug. I can never write code like this. I will never be in the position where I would cause for this to happen. It must be somebody else. So these type of things keep repeatedly happening. And our engineering leaders believe just because this person has a great charisma, or you know, he dominates every conversation, he has great success stories, they tend to believe this. And your voices are not heard when you're escalating this to your upper management. So I had to step in a couple of times, and thanks to one of my developers who and or QA engineers who actually escalated it to me and said, this has been happening for too long and we need your help. And how I resolve the issue will come in subsequent topics as we discuss this, but the short story is, people do have to deal with these kind of situations in the workplace where you're bullied, and because they are at such a level, because of certain things that they have accomplished, they think that they can exude this narcissistic behavior.
Thank you for sharing that. And one of the things I think that comes out from the narcissist or the person that's exhibiting this behavior is they're very charismatic. You use that word, they're full of charisma, and they're very convincing. And I've seen this happen with so many people. They'll always sit there and it's all about them. The picture is always all about them. But when something goes wrong, then they want to play victim. And it's always everybody else's fault but their own. So thank you for sharing that. That was a good perspective on that. So moving on to Anjina. Anjina, can you share what are your thoughts or experiences on this topic?
Thank you for having me today, Renu. I'm actually going to talk about narcissism in friendship, because it's an experience I've had, and I think it's very different than what Ashima Ashima was talking about when it involves a spouse. So this was many years ago, when my very young days. I had a very dear friend who I thought was a dear friend, but unfortunately, it was something that I didn't recognize. Of course, in relationships, you're not very experienced when you are young, and you're not able to recognize those traits. I mean, now at the stage that some of us are at, or most of us at, we can actually recognize certain traits. Or certain behaviors that are related to narcissism. So this friend of mine, which I thought was a very good friend, very close friend, I shared many emotional, many personal things, and I never felt as if she was completely engaged in conversations that we had. She would always make herself look better, and she always seemed to be the popular one, and I could never understand that. Why is she so popular when she's so mean to me? Kind of like the high school thing. So it was really very emotional time, because I had someone I thought that I trusted, and I was always made to feel very put down, and I would actually lose quite a bit of my confidence, because I began to believe what she would say was true, which really wasn't. And they have this sense of how to manipulate you in believing what they think is true, and you actually start believing that. So it becomes very toxic. And you really don't realize that until it comes to a head, and at one point you kind of stand back and you think, well, this is not good for me. I'm not really this person, but when I'm around this person, I react to things and do things that really are not within my personality. So you do feel belittled, you feel very low esteem, and until you actually stand back and recognize that, which is very difficult, because when you're in a relationship, whether it's family, friends, or spousal, you do not recognize it until there comes to a head point. And that's exactly what happened with me, and I was able to recognize that.
Absolutely. And one of the sad things is to know that this would be, I'm assuming that this was a woman, is
Yes.
that it's woman to woman. And
Yes.
I think one of the traits that I've seen that happens is they will find out something very private or exclusive about you, a secret that you may have shared, that they will then use to threaten this relationship when you do try and leave them. And I've seen that happen so many times. So for all those who are tuning in, thanks for watching. This is Meet to Motivate, our premier show from Building Women Empowered. We're talking about narcissism today. And I can pretty much say that I'm sure every single one of us has gone through some kind of experience with this. So hopefully today's show will be empowering enough when you hear real life stories to understand that you're not alone. And then hopefully you'll be able to take home some tips of what you can do to overcome this behavior, or if you're involved in a relationship like this. So now we'll move over to Gauri. Gauri, could you share your views?
Yeah, I wish I had learned about narcissism through a forum. Unfortunately, I learned about narcissism the hard way. And I grew up very traditionally and was being introduced by family to people and trying to figure out who would be a good life partner for me, when I met someone who actually swept me off my feet. So he seemed to be a soulmate, because we had so many things in common. And we only met once for half an hour, but he was mirroring everything about me. He said that he likes animals too and would like to help animals. He's going to become vegetarian because he likes, I had become vegetarian when I was very young, because I really empathize with animals. And he wanted to become vegetarian. He liked me so much. So we had similar life goals. And he was very charismatic too. So handsome, charismatic, swept me off my feet. And then suddenly I wasn't sure what hit me, what happened. And I felt like maybe I was doing something wrong, and kept apologizing. The man said yes. Suddenly, everything that he seemed to adore and admire about me seemed to be somehow huge faults of mine. this person who thought I was beautiful now thought that I was arrogant and I was not really beautiful. People told me I was beautiful, so I thought I was beautiful, and now you're arrogant. The person who thought I was intelligent enough to have gone to Purdue now thought that like I was dumb. And I wasn't sure what's going on. I thought there was a huge misunderstanding, and I realized my confidence was quickly eroding. And then I think that's where the self-love comes in, where you put your foot down and you realize that this is not who I am. And either this person is completely misunderstanding me, or they have to give me a chance to let me explain and give this relationship a chance. And I think I was very fortunate that I put my foot down very quickly. And I had family who was very supportive. And I then learned about what narcissism is, consulted with, decided to go for counseling, and then met a psychiatrist. And he said, this is like very clear indications of someone who is narcissist. So when you feel a little hurt, they have absolutely no empathy about what they've said. And then they'll blame you for being extremely sensitive. So that's one huge warning sign of a narcissist.
Thank you for sharing your story, Gauri. I really, applaud all the women that are sharing their personal stories. It's not easy to talk about broken relationships and friendships. So thank you so much. And, again, I can only say that, having gone through a marriage many years ago, thankfully, I was only in it for 4.5 years, is that the problem relates very similar to what Gauri and Ashima's experience is. In addition to the abuse and stuff, everything that this person waited 2 years to marry me, but as soon as I got married and came here, everything about me was wrong. Just everything. You're too tall, you're too skinny, you're this, you're that. And you start actually believing it. And, a lot of people ask me now, how come you're so strong? I used to be very strong. And if you see what 4 years did to me, it took me a long time to get out of that situation. And all I can tell all the women who are tuning in and listening today is that there is another life. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. So don't ever think that you have to be stuck to this one person for any reason at all. Life is beautiful, especially if you can learn to enjoy your own company and love who you are. Let's move on to our singer, Kanika, who is going to share what her views are on narcissism and any experiences.
Thank you, Renuji. Thank you, BWE, for having me on the panel today. This is close to heart. When I say I haven't been affected personally, doesn't mean that any negative relationships have never touched me. It's just that maybe my parents or just a society around me taught me very early on that self-love means self-respect. And the foundation of every relationship is respect. And I was probably from the very beginning, when I didn't find the respect, I moved away, no matter what the relationship was. But sadly, very sadly, I have many friends who have been victims. They have suffered in love, in friendship, and in some cases even have the attackers have been their parents. So it's very sad and distressing for me to see their journey. I think one common thing, that the pattern, the behavior that I see in all the narcissists, all the attackers, in all of these cases is something, a term which I found later on is called love bombing, where they use love as a tool to manipulate these victims. They will shower them with love. They will create this emotional trap around them, where they feel so trapped. They feel so loved and so special and so wanted and needed, at one time glorified, and then, but only they can't use their brain to think that this love is for them is conditional, and love should never be conditional. If it is conditional, then it's not love, no matter what the relationship. So, and when you don't behave as per them, then they're like, oh, either they will yell, scream, silent treatment, shut you off, or just physical abuse even. So it has to be as per them. And that is quite sad for me to see that all of these friends, in some way I see they are not normal. And they're not normal because of this abuse. They're either confused, fearful, over emotional. And the saddest part here is, I'll conclude, is they succumb to these things. They know the red flags they have identified, but they continue to be in this relationship because they call it their fate. And very sad.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. And a point on that is, you mentioned is that people continue in this relationship because one of the things about narcissists is they will make sure that you lose all your friends, and they will control your friendship and who you're friends with. And when you decide to let go, then make sure that nobody else is going to be remaining as your friend. And unfortunately, now with social media, you will find that a lot of people will take to social media to really make the other person's life difficult, which is sad. Thank you for sharing, Kanika. And now we'll move on to Dr. Kushi. Dr. Kushi, would you like to share your views? Are you there, Dr. Kushi? Okay, so I think she was not well, so let's move on. And
No,
you're there? Okay.
Okay, so thank you, Renu. It's great to listen from all the panelists. And I would like to thank Kanika for mentioning the narcissist. It's for them, it's just my way or highway. So that's what is a great point Kanika captured. So before diving into today's topic, I would like to emphasize always remember that each relationship you have exists only as a courtesy. If someone treats you like a piece of trash, even if they are a family member, friend, or coworker, just get rid of them. Regardless of diagnosis or a personality trait, you deserve to be treated with respect, dignity, and fairness. So this is my mantra. And I would like to share that with everyone. Just, it's your life and live it the way you want. So now, speaking of narcissism, having to deal with a narcissistic trait can be challenging and very hurtful. It's important to understand narcissistic personalities. They can be found in our daily lives, from personal life, social gatherings to workplace. And by observing their behavior, we can identify their traits and patterns and be prepared to deal with them. Either we can distance ourselves from them, or if we need to engage with them, we can be more aware of their behaviors and know how to protect ourselves from their manipulation, negativity. So how do we spot a narcissist? Look for signs of an inflated ego, inflated sense of self-importance, a need for attention and validation, lack of empathy for others. Finally, and most importantly, they are very charming and convincing. So it's useful and fun to observe a narcissist's behavior, find the pattern, and make informed decisions. Keep all your antennas on.
I like that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, which reminds me, there's a book that was written, I've forgotten the name, but the author Kurt Cobain says, a narcissist says, I don't care what you think unless it's all about me. It has to be all about them, and that's it. And the world is only about them. Yeah. So thank you so much. Moving on to Nina, and thank you, Nina. You can see Nina's been sharing a lot of pointers in the chat as well. So Nina, could you share from your experiences, professional experiences as well, your thoughts on this?
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've been like putting information in the chat. Yeah, so I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I work in adult psychiatry, and one of my specialties is access to personality disorders, which that is what narcissistic personality disorder is. Really quick, like access 1 is basically mental health, substance abuse. 2 is reserved for personality disorders. 3 is general medical conditions. I just wanted to like provide, well, personally, yes, I've been in relationships that have had narcissistic qualities, and also just worked with patients that have narcissistic traits or do meet full criteria for the disorder. I think just really quick, I just wanted to provide a little bit of a background on NPD, just because I feel like that can kind of demystify like the term a bit. So NPD, it was theorized first by Dr. Heinz Kohut. And he identified that we as people, we have self-object needs, those which are narcissistic needs. And that's actually crucial in our development of self. So what happens with NPD is it's a combination of our inherent personality traits, also social learning, how we're raised, which is actually why we see NPD more so in men. because generally, this is generally speaking, men are overpraised and their accomplishments can be overvalued, which then creates this inflated sense of self and entitlement. But that's not to say that women or people of all genders don't struggle with narcissism. And so basically, first and foremost, our first self-object need is mirroring. And so that's when a caregiver recognizes the child's capabilities and talents and affirms those in a child and then creates that ego strength. Second is idealization. And that is all children need someone that they can admire and idealize. And that's where they gain their beliefs, values, aspirations, and strengths from. And three is twinship or alter ego. And so this is when a child experiences a sense of a likeness to caregivers and important others, and they feel that they're joining into a group or they're bonding to a person. And so I think someone had mentioned that when they were in a relationship, like one of the panelists with someone that's narcissistic, they noticed that that person actually started to like things that they liked, right? And that is that third need, the twinship or a likeness of ego. And so when these things get out of balance, that's when a personality disorder is created. And so that's just a little bit of a background on NPD. And in a relationship, there's four stages of a narcissistic relationship, and it's a cycle, right? So it's kind of similar to like the cycle of abuse. There's the idealization phase where the person who's narcissistic, they love bomb us. So they make us feel like we're amazing, we're a goddess, they place us on a pedestal. And they often do this quickly, right? Because that third childhood need, that a likeness, they bond quickly with somebody and they recognize how they can bond with you. The scary thing is, so if you're quickly put on a pedestal, that also means you can quickly get knocked off the pedestal, right? So that's kind of something to look out for. Because next, if you do something that that kind of makes them feel not secure with you, or they perceive as an attack or a criticism, then you're quickly devalued. And the devaluation phase can be abuse, it can be being emotional abuse, like psychological abuse, physical abuse, anything like that. And then there's discard, where they make you feel neglected or like you don't matter anymore. And then when they realize they're going to lose you, then there's the Hoover phase, so Hoover like a vacuum, where they try to suck you back in. And that's where the social isolation comes into play too, right? So if they kind of start turning your peers or whoever against you or family, then you will go back to them, because also you're addicted to this idealization phase. And so that's what this cycle is. And that's why when people are like, well, why would you still be friends with that person? Or why are you working with them? Or why don't you set boundaries with them? Or why are you in that relationship? It's like, well, I probably have been, socially isolated. And then also they make me feel really good. And then also I'm afraid to set limits and boundaries with them, because then I'm going to be devalued, right? And that's very painful. Or I'm going to feel discarded, like I'm worthless. So that's also something to keep in mind, is like they get to know you really well. And often, I think someone had mentioned too, that often empathic people end up with narcissists, either as friends, in a coworker relationship, romantic. And that's because we can attune to their needs very well. And so they target us. Because,
thank you for sharing that, Nina. You use the word addicted. And it's funny, we think about addiction as being only alcohol or drug abuse, but addiction is actually in relationships. And thank you for bringing up that point, because that's one of the things that I see so many times. It's very easy to tell somebody, hey, why would you want to be putting up with this person as a friend? I mean, they're so nasty to you, and you'll see that they just can't live without this person. They just can't do without it, because this person has got this control on them. So thank you for shedding such good knowledge and presenting it in using all your experience. It went really well, breaking it down into those 4 areas. We're moving over to Ranjitha. Ranjitha works with a lot of women that are abused, domestic violence, and she is a survivor herself of that. So Ranjitha, could you share some of your views?
Hi, Ms. Renergy. So like you already know, I have been through an abuse, and there was a lot of phases where Ashima and Gori already mentioned a lot of the stuff that they have been through. I have already been through the same stuff. But the only thing how I overcome all this stuff was getting a lot of and doing a lot of self-love, building my self-esteem, where I was always demotivated, like by him, and like the idolization phase and demeaning me, and lot of different phases, like where he was like, no, it's all your fault. It was always my fault, not his fault. So I cut all those phases in my life and started connecting to good sources, good positive sources, where I can build myself up. And having that positive in my life had made me grow so much bigger and firmer in my own life. And now here I am with you all sitting in the panel.
That's wonderful,
So,
Ranjita. That's really wonderful.
yeah. So like always like you don't have to like stay in that relationship until you're at a point where like you want to kill yourself or be suicidal or something like that. No, talk to somebody where whether it's family members or friends, or call. There's like a lot of shelters. Call them, talk to them, and ask for an advocate, and they will be able to help you out, get out a lot of stuff, and help you legal, you know counseling, free, whatever you need, it's out there. The only thing you have to do is like have that confidence in yourself that, hey, no, I need to get out and do something and seek help. And there you go. You will be able to get the resources back and you'll be all good.
Thank you, Ranjita. Knowing your personal story, since you came on Candid Conversations and stuff, it's very hard, especially when you have a young child or a baby or an infant, to
Yes.
get out of a toxic relationship, because you feel, especially sometimes the spouse, if you do have a narcissistic spouse, they'll also make you feel financially helpless or put you in such a position that you cannot even leave because they've made sure that you don't have any money. So I really commend
Yes.
you for doing that, and also now turning your life around and helping other women. So thank you so much, because
Thank
you
you.
truly
Appreciate it. Thank you.
no, you truly meet the what I feel is what Building Women Empowered is. And I always talk about women. One of the, women can be very compassionate, but we can also be very cruel. And we can be very judgmental. And I think one of the very important things that I wanted, and you'll see all my blogs that I write on BWE, is about self-love and doing spring cleaning. I spring clean my friend list all the time. And,
Yes.
sometimes people think that you have to have a whole bunch of friends to be popular. You don't.
Nope.
You just need a
Nope.
few friends who believe in you, and your life will be really healthy. And that spring cleaning, like you clean your garage and you throw your junk out, got a lot of junky friends as well you can throw out.
And the most biggest thing I do is, Miss Renuji, I do not need nobody else's praise to praise me for what I do. I praise myself.
Absolutely.
That's what I do. I do not need anybody's praise. I praise myself to grow into what I want to and what I believe is right for me and what I believe is right going to be for my kids.
So moving on, we're going to move over to My Positivity Matters. So it ties in really well, having listened to everybody. We talked to my partner in crime, who's managing this whole show so well that I can actually sit here with my arms crossed and do nothing, is Ragini. So Ragini is from My Positivity Matters, and she's going to share her experiences. So welcome to the show, Ragini. Thank you for being my wonderful co-host for me.
Thank you so much, Renu, for having me. And like I said, I'm really, really enjoying this whole format and the talk. Listening to everybody's experience is amazing. As far as my experience is concerned, I don't have a lot of extreme sort of experience, but in general, you get to meet different kind of people and they come with all of these challenges. And, I feel like it's because there is a lot of bitterness maybe in them. That's why they behave like this, and we as people, we cannot fix, we cannot correct other people, right? Like we can only work on ourselves. I believe in that principle. And that's where this whole thing, my positivity matters, because that is in my control, right? That is what I can control. And I can give one example where, just to show like how the spiritual angle to it things, because I believe in spirituality a lot, and it has tremendous power to shift our reality. It's just that sometimes we go in the deep sadness and the challenges and we think that is what life is, but actually we can shift our life when we work on ourselves. And every situation, be it extreme negative also, you can see in the long run it improved you, like it made you better. And if you just go back and see how you were before and now after the challenges, how you are now, you're much more stronger. You are much more like, you have more empathy, you have more like you're less judgmental basically. So you as a person evolve and become better. That's where I feel the growth happens. And for any kind of growth, the challenge is there. Challenge is gonna be keep coming in our lives. Okay, sometimes bad, sometimes little bit bad, like those kind of things. But quickly, I don't know if I have like 1 minute, I'll just share. Like at work, I was when I left the work, before that, my last job, where I was going through this phase, whether to start my own company or keep continuing the job, like that was the phase. And for 3 years, I was working in the startup. I was a top performer there. Okay. Suddenly, in when I left, before that, 1 month before, the new manager came, and she knew that I am like, everybody told that she's good, she's doing amazing and everything. But the way she treated me, it was really, really not good. And I felt like, why it's happening to me? Like, why suddenly I have been doing good, everything was good. Suddenly, why this change? And that time, actually, we started one workshop, Hanuman workshop. And the day the first workshop, the first segment of that workshop happened, that day itself, I had a very rough encounter with her, and then Hanuman Jayanti, after 1.5 months, there's a day of Hanuman Jayanti. That day, there was a very bad meeting with my managers, and they said something which I couldn't digest. Like, how come it's happening to me, right? Like that. And why on that day? Because it was like this whole thing, I'm doing something nice. Why it's happening on that day? And those next 2 days, it was very bad emotionally for me, because I felt like I have to leave this job. And then so that is like, if I go back and look like why it happened, so there is a reason for anything that happens in our life. And I resigned from the job, and that's where I was able to start this whole new initiative. So this is like example where I can tell you that everybody comes in our life either for a reason, for a season, and there is a purpose. They're a teacher, they're trying to teach something. The universe never does anything which is unfair for us,
right?
That's how my take is on, that whole thing. Like, yeah.
I know. I like the way you said people come in for a reason and a season. And sometimes that season could be an hour, and you can learn a lot from somebody even in 1 hour. So thank you so much, Ragini. And well, thanks to that manager, you went and launched your own business, right? So you have something to thank her for.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you for sharing. And now let's move on to Tanya. Tanya is going to share some of her views. Is Tanya there? There you go.
I'm right here. So this has been, Meet to Motivate, as it says. The name itself is quite apt. And I'm so glad we have decided to premiere this. And this topic, as I did not know, was so global. And I think it's something which is getting us all together. But most of you wouldn't know, I love the way how we just had a previous speaker about the spirituality, and we had someone before that speak about self-love. So I don't know how many of you all know, but I'm also a believer in occult sciences. So with, it really keeps you grounded. And at a very early age, always being, inclined towards calling a spade, being very outspoken, being able to look through somebody's traits. And that has usually landed me up in a lot of trouble. And so when you do experience toxicity and deal with somebody who's, draining you off, you are bound to pinpoint, and at least you feel you are helping the person who's going through it. At least I felt I'm, letting out an obvious trait which may not be very so obvious to the other person. But then as you grow and the naivety outgrows, it actually begins to sink in that, aha, this is what they actually want. They want to thrive literally in that attention you are giving them. And that is what they want. This is their way of grasping the eyeballs of the audience by behaving in certain ways that could even lead to somebody else's emotional breakdown at the cost of them gloating precisely. So I guess not giving them what they desire or demand requires or commands some kind of self-control. It is easier said than done. And that challenge is not very easy to overcome because, as all the speakers have spoken before me, this NPD personality can be quite relentless and conniving and manipulative in a lot of ways. And also sometimes, if God forbid, the tables ever turned and they ever got to taste the toxicity they are letting out, and I think all hell would break loose because they wouldn't be able to digest the same mirror, like how a person spoke, how they were mirroring the same likes and dislikes. If they were mirrored the same behavior they got, they wouldn't be able to take any of it. So I guess not wanting to take the behavior is, as I mentioned, it's easier said than done. But learning to put your foot down at an early age and how we resort to self-love and not making ourselves believe that what this person says is the way to go, and having a little faith in yourself, a little spiritual power. It's an amalgamation of everything which keeps you sane, steady, and afloat. So I guess that is my experience.
Thank you for sharing that. And one of the most common things that's coming out of all this whole conversation, you'll hear a word, self-love. Everybody has to learn to love themselves. And I think that's one thing we think sometimes as self-love is being arrogant. It's not. There's nothing wrong with loving yourself. And I think if you can't love yourself, then how do you expect other people to love you? So I think that's very, very important. Yeah. And I think another important point about narcissists that you brought up is that about how if they were to go through the same experience, and time as a way of showing people their true colors. And I think it's very important that we need to learn how to make that quick exit. And I think what you need to do, just like when you see a fire, what are you going to do? You're not going to run into the fire. You're going to run away from the fire. I often wonder why people run into these relationships instead of running away from them. So let's move on to, we're almost wrapped up with round one. Let's move on to Charan, who will share her views.
Thank you, Renuji. So luckily for me, my story is not about myself. I want to share a synopsis of from 3 other women who I've seen up close and personal living with narcissistic men. And by no means do I want to make it a man bashing, meeting or a session, because there are many wonderful men in the world, but these 3 situations stand out in the context of the topic. In all these 3 situations, the men were settled in the US, women were in India. So in essence, the men felt that they had an upper hand to begin with. They felt entitled for providing their wives living in the United States of America. All 3 had very uncanny similarities to each other, extremely possessive, wouldn't let the wives step out alone. They controlled who they spoke to, wouldn't let them drive even though they could, didn't even need a driver's license according to them. And initially the women just felt that they were behaving like that out of their love and concern for them, love bombed, as some of you already termed it, right? So all the 3 men were distrusting, extremely suspicious, had problems with intimacy, which I think could have perhaps led to extremely low self-esteem and insecurities they built within themselves, which they tried to overpower through narcissistic behavior. They all, and some of us have shared this again and again, they maintained exemplary behavior in front of others because they have this inherent need to be liked and loved by everyone, and they will go to any extent to make that happen. Charming, easily made an impression on everyone, any age group, any sex, any gender, they impressed everyone. Nobody really saw a fault in them. So it became even more difficult for the spouses to first recognize the problem and then explain and get some support and understanding. So there was control being exercised, even in trivial matters, manipulated people in situations to go in their favor. And whenever they were confronted, they would defend themselves to such perfection, as most of us agree, almost making the other person feel guilty for doubting and accusing them of any foul play or wrongdoing, playing the victim, as we're saying, right? So all this behavior, something that I didn't hear on the panel so far, was accompanied by intolerable bouts of anger in all the three situations, where they would try to harm themselves, not the wives. So in all the three cases, the wives were not physically abused. The men were abusing themselves to show, how they were hurt, I guess. By the way, I just want to mention that the three women were highly educated, accomplished individuals. One was a doctor, one was an engineer, one was an artist, raised in families that treated men and women as equals. But these men completely undermined the women's capabilities, crippling them emotionally, ruining their confidence, and making them feel inadequate for anything. So I don't have any detailed incidents, but I was, as I said, I witnessed these over a period of 15 to 17 years across three very close relatives.
Thank you for sharing that, Charan. And it reminded me of my own personal experience. I was in Kenya and I got married to somebody that was here. And all I heard for 18 years, or almost, actually not even 18 years, 30 years was, you should thank me that I got you a green card. And I used to sit there thinking, you really think that this was a great thing for me to do, is leave a life of living on a beach and come here and have to work 24 hours a day is not, not giving me anything better than what I had. But I used to hear that all the time, is that this is what I've done for you. This is what I've done for you. And that's all, that I heard for 4.5 years that I was married to him. So our last panelist is Sheena, and we are going a little over time, so let's keep it to 2 minutes. And then when we get into round two, Ragini, if there's anyone else that in our group that wants to share, any listeners, we'll bring them on first before we start wrapping up, because we definitely do want to keep within our time frames. So Sheena?
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mom, fellow panelists, and BWE for having me here today. I also want to thank my partner, who is actually in the audience and is a male who is listening in on this conversation today. And it just means so much to me to have a male also listening in, to just kind of understand what a narcissism is. So a narcissist is when a person is egocentric, thinking of only oneself without regarding others, essentially being self-centered. For a narcissist, oftentimes they don't see what they're doing is wrong. And most times it is solely impacting the people around them, as we have heard in our conversation today. My personal experience with a narcissist is one in which is very difficult to speak about, so I do want to keep it a little bit more anonymous. Throughout my relationship with this person, I found myself building this sense of hatred for them, which was very heartbreaking, as the love in which I have for them continues to grow and continues to even after their passing. It was a situation which I tended to avoid any sort of communication with them, the messages, calls, or even conversations. Not because I was always scared of their messages, but because I felt like I was always having to defend myself, my family, including my mother. And this happened for 29 years of my life, in which every time I had a conversation, I left that conversation feeling emotionally dysregulated and just very fearful of just being told that I was wrong or not enough. I found myself constantly having to defend my mom as well, and it went to being, during the last conversation I actually had with this person, I actually had to ask, like, why was I never enough for you? What did I do that caused you to hate me this much? And it took me it's been 3 years now after their passing, that I still question that. Like, what happened in order for you to turn this way? Because I only until the last 10 days of your life did I really see essentially their true colors, like what they were about. But unfortunately, the hatred that I had built up for them for those 29 years had really impacted my family and my sister and my mother, and it really just, scarred us. And so till today, I'm just kind of following my grief journey and already in learning to understand myself better, learning to follow my self-love. It's led me into becoming a therapist of, to help others in our brown community, and just learning how to speak up for themselves, whether it be with a loved one, whether it be with a parent or just a friend. You know, I just think that that's really important. And I'm really blessed with a strong mother who has stood by my side and allowed me to just defend myself and learn more and follow the path of self-love, because that's something that a lot of times we don't learn how to do, especially in our brown community. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheena. And for those who haven't figured out, Sheena was actually talking about the ex-husband. So, and yes, on that journey, I will also say that as humans, even if after 30 years, if you can learn to also forgive, it's important. And the journey that Sheena shared is that we were both treated. For some reason, he was always very accepting of the older daughter, but for myself and Sheena, he was not. And 29 years was spent telling us how much he hated us. And it wasn't until his last few moments in his last 11 days is when we sat by his bedside and took care of him, where he realized that, you know, he started apologizing. And for those who go through these toxic relationships, you know, when you've been abused for 30 years, you can't, you know, apologizing in 5 hours about what you've done is just not acceptable. But if you can forgive, forget, and let go, you'll be able to move on. And that's part of self-love. And I hope everyone can do that, because I did. And I feel so much better. So thank you so much. That was our round one. Really, really thank you. It's been very insightful. We went a little over time, but that's because people had very, very important stories to share. So before we move on to round two, because we do want to wrap up the show by 5:30, and it's already 5 o'clock. Does anyone any of our listeners in the audience want to share anything or come on and speak or read anything? If you could let us know, raise your hand. That would be great. Those who move on to round two. Ragini, do we have anyone that wants to come on board?
I don't see any questions in the chat, so it should be good.
Perfect. Great. No worries. Yeah. I mean, I think we're covering so many important things here. So as we move on into round two, we've all clearly understood what narcissistic behavior is. And we've talked about spouses and, you know, family members and relationships at the workplace. I mean, pretty much you can see narcissism happening anywhere and everywhere. And so what do? How do you actually get out of that relationship? How do you move out? Sometimes you can't, right? Sometimes you have, for example, if you have a mother-in-law in the house who's narcissistic, you can't, but you have a lovely husband, you can't tell your husband, well, you know, I can't deal with your mother. It's going to make things worse. So how do you deal with these situations? How do you set boundaries? So if everyone can keep it to just please 1 minute, because we definitely want to move on to other things as well. I'll go back again to our panelists. If within 1 or 1.5 minutes, give 1 or 2 points about how should one deal with narcissism. 1 or 2 points. So we'll begin with Ashima, back to Kenya.
Thanks, Renu. Good to hear all the different experiences. Spouse, working, home, outside. Personally, after a few years, okay, my first way of dealing with the whole thing was not to confront. I never used to have a direct confrontation, because the moment I did, there was physical abuse. So that was the one thing that I refused to allow any sort of. The other thing is, over a period of time, I now started realizing I've got to build my self-esteem. I have to, otherwise it's not going to go anywhere. These were the two main, and third was, at some point, I recognized when I had to leave the relationship. And that is the most important thing for me, that I feel a narcissist, as everyone has said, needs so much attention. Stop giving them the attention and you need to move away. For me, that was the very, very bottom line. So
absolutely, knowing when to make that exit.
Yeah. When to make the exit. That was the way I dealt with it, really.
Thank you for sharing
12.5 years was enough.
Thank you for sharing that. Anjana.
So in my workplace, I would actually try and document everything with respect to this behavior, by virtue of, you know, we're dealing with tickets and bugs and things like that. So document evidence into it. And this also is in the personal life too. Any of these abusive activities that's going on, please document. You will know the possible triggers and you will know the possible patterns. And the second thing is to keep communication very clear and direct, no open-ended questions, so no room for interpretation and, having to manipulate you. So yes or no. So I think those two I would tell people to keep as takeaways.
So no gray areas, yes
Yep.
or no, black and white.
Yep.
Thank you. Anjina.
Thank you for everybody's views and everybody's stories. It's been really very informative, I think, for our group as well as our listeners. I think one of the things personally that I realized was I think you have to start thinking about how you feel around this person. If you don't feel good, then there's something wrong. And that's when you've really got to reevaluate. So that was one of the key things for me. And I think that's really important to recognize. And then secondly, when you are not around that person, how that makes you feel. So it's kind of like the tipping scale. You're looking at both of the balances on that scale and trying to recognize that. So I think that's really important.
Thank you so much. And recently, someone that I know went through this and had to and made a decision to leave the narcissistic person, but then they realized that they had lost all their friends. And they felt that they had to stick around because they would have no friends. And I said to this person, I said, well, how many friends do you need? You just need a few, right? I mean, why do you need a whole crowd of people to make you feel better? You don't. Because if you actually think about it, you just need yourself first to love yourself. And then a few other people that you genuinely will appreciate you. And I won't take any names, but recently I shared my personal story with someone, and I told them, I said, I love partying. But I said to them, I said, if you're going to invite me to an event, please just put me in a group of people that are going to be like-minded individuals. I just haven't got the time or patience now to be in a room with 50 women and have to deal with the gossiping and the drama. Just save me that. And we had a party of just 8 people, and it was one of the best parties I've ever attended. So thank you to that person for hosting that for me. Let's move on to Gauri. Gauri, what have you done? How did you learn this?
So my advice would be set boundaries, take your time. So narcissists can be very charming, but they can't hold on to that behavior for a long time. So take your time and set your boundaries. Don't let them rush you into anything. And keep your connections with your family and friends. They will try to isolate you from your family and friends, but keep those connections. And stay, whatever you're passionate about, have those hobbies. So keep doing those. Don't let them stop you from continue pursuing those. Whether you like to dance, do yoga, meditate, hang out with your friends, keep doing those, volunteer for a cause. And all these are elements of self-love that we've been talking about, right? These are actually displaying self-love. And do not get convinced to stay with that person in a relationship because of society. So that is another big aspect of self-love. Yeah, have the strength to walk away and go build that beautiful life for yourself. And forgive. So if it helps you to know that narcissists have gone through some trauma in their childhood, which is why they're like that. So if it helps you with being able to forgive, realize that they actually are dealing with the problem themselves. And but you don't have to stay connected with them. So separate yourself from them and forgive. And you're forgiving not because you forgive their behavior, but you're forgiving for yourself so that you can go build that beautiful life for yourself.
Let go of the negative energy. Yes. Very well said, Gauri. Yes. Kanika, I'm sure you experience sometimes narcissism in all these musical shows that you participate in. Aren't there performers that will insist that they want to perform first before you?
Yeah, there are all sorts of weird behaviors. You're right. One of them being that and so many other things. But like I said earlier, I think And Gauri, you just spoke all my thoughts really well, and just exact same thoughts. I think self-love begins with respect, respecting yourself. Where you don't see the respect coming to you, you know you need to move away. Where that's a big red flag. I think before love comes the respect in any relationship. So my only tip that I've given to myself, reminders to myself and my friends would be, if you can move away from that person, just move away. Move miles away from people, negative energies, negative people who are trying to bring you down. And don't look back, don't second guess yourself. They are going to use all of their emotional drama, all of their tools to get you back. They'll fake hospitalizations, they'll go to any lengths to get you back. Don't fall in that trap. The mantra should be no contact, no contact, no contact, zero. Like you don't even know they exist. So because you're doing this to heal yourself. You're just doing this to heal yourself, you're not moving away to get a reaction and fall into the trap. So if you can't move out of the trap, if you like a mother-in-law or somebody, then just use the tool of ignore. Like Gauri said, work so much on your passion, on your talents, on your studies, on your work, on yourself so much that they don't even get a chance to come in. Oh, this person's so busy. How do I even get a word in? So make yourself so busy. Always share with your friends. Always share your feelings with your confidant, with people. And third, if you are so tortured and trapped that you're into physical abuse, seek help from NGOs. Go to law enforcement. In this day and age, there are lots of channels to help. So don't succumb to this behavior at all, no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you, Kanika. Dr. Khushi.
Okay, so before we get into how do we handle narcissistic situation, there is one question that came from Renu that was really interesting. And Renu, you asked, why do people fall in for narcissists instead of running away? So people fall for narcissists because of their charm and charisma. And a narcissist may manipulate their victims into feeling very special, very valued, leading them to believe they have a very unique and special connection with the narcissist, which becomes addictive. And it is like all other addictions, tough to get out of it. And so go get help. The next point I would like to come is, how do we handle narcissistic situations? It's challenging, but there are do's and don'ts that may help. So do's: believe in yourself and listen to your well-wishers, protect your self-esteem, set boundaries, stand your ground, and communicate assertively. And someone else mentioned about the documenting, and I would like to emphasize on that too. Document incidents with a narcissist. That documentation can help provide clarity and a new perspective on the situation and find patterns of their behavior. So that will be really helpful. Today, you might feel, no, I am wrong. It's not his fault. But if you keep going through the diary, you will find out, no, it's always his fault. He made me feel like it's your fault.
Thank you, Dr. Khushi.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Nina.
Hi. Yeah, so I think I do really like what Gauri, like what you had mentioned about the self-compassion, and then also having compassion for the individual that struggles with narcissism or borderline personality disorder or whatever it is that they're struggling with. I think that, yeah, retaining like things that are our own, that aren't somebody else's or that haven't been taken from us, is super important, whether that's our hobbies, our values, our morals, whatever that is, because that allows us to create this separate sense of self and identity from the person that we're in relation with if they do have a personality disorder. I also want to recognize that this is a gradient, right? There's some situations where someone is narcissistic, perhaps has some antisocial personality traits, which was like the extreme physical abuse or law-breaking behavior, or they are self-injurious, right? So they threaten to kill themselves, they're very dramatic, they are cutting, things like that, which is more borderline personality disorder. So in those situations, I think, yeah, sometimes we just need to leave the situation when we see that it is very toxic or harmful to us. And we can do that by utilizing support from professionals, family, friends, and being open to seeing their perspective on what's going on. I also want to recognize that sometimes we can't leave a situation. Maybe they're covert narcissists, so they're narcissistic, but we still want to be in a relationship with them. Or maybe it's our mother-in-law or whoever it is. And so what do we do in that situation? Well, one, first you tune into yourself. You really like quiet your mind and you think about, hey, how do I feel about this? How do I really feel? Not how he or she or they are telling me I should feel, but how do I feel? Like, what does my voice tell me, right? And then second, we set a boundary through communication. So how do we do that? So the easiest way to set a talking boundary is one, go by sensory data. So that means what an observable behavior. So that's like when I saw this, or when I heard this, or when, something we can see that through or feel through our senses, because that's something someone can't debate, because that's our experience. When I saw this, this is what I thought, or this is what I believed about this, or this is what this triggered for me. And then this is how I felt. That's the emotion part. And this is how I felt due to what I saw or what I heard or what so-and-so did or what mom-in-law did or whatever the heck it was. And then we ask for our vulnerable request. And that is what we want to happen differently the next time. So that is, I would like, when I saw this, this is what I thought, this is how I felt. And so this is what I want to happen next time. Or I don't want this to happen next time. Or I would like this to be done differently. And so, and I can type this up in the chat. It's a clear formula for how to set a verbal boundary. And I think that's really important for us to memorize, because it's not helpful to get into a direct confrontation with a narcissistic person, because they're so extremely sensitive, and it's just going to make the situation worse. But what is helpful is if we set a clear boundary and we just keep repeating that message and we stay regulated ourselves.
That would be great if you could post that in the chat for all those who are there. Thank you so much for giving us that perspective. Yeah. Ranjita?
So according to me, like, when trauma is related, most of us with the trauma, we forget a lot of stuff. So like Gori was saying it and Ashima was telling, journaling is the best way. Journaling is very, very good. Setting boundaries. The biggest one is setting boundaries and not going to that person back, and not even having a relationship with even his family members is the best thing, because once you have that relationship, they might tend to tell you, come back, come back, get with him back. Yeah. So don't do that. Like, try to stay far away as much as possible and do what is best for you and for your health, and seek counseling, which is very important, because if you're not enrolled into counseling, that trauma might lead to depression, because talking to somebody is very important. And there's like, I think it's in the therapy, it says like avocado illustration. Some stuff we cannot talk to our family members or friends, but we can talk to a therapist or a counselor. That's the inner pit. Only the good stuff which we have been hiding from our family, that we don't want our family to know or suffer, like this is what we have been through. So those are the part that you can talk to a counselor or a therapist. So please go seek counseling if you are really experiencing any kind of trauma. Seek that help and get better in life.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Ragini.
Yes. I think a lot of people covered a lot of good, valuable inputs here. My point is, like, I always believe, like, I always talk about this coaching concept, because a lot of, we 96% is our subconscious thoughts. Only 4% is our conscious. So consciously, even if we want to go away or, leave a person, something, subconscious is so strong and powerful. It doesn't let us leave the person, for example, right? It controls us. So there are programs running in our subconscious system, and that we can't see. And that's why there is a, like, we need to have a blind spot monitor, somebody who can monitor what's going on in a subconscious, and that a coach or a counselor or a therapist, those are the people who can do that. So having somebody like that, just like a physical diagnosis we do with the doctor, similarly, emotional diagnosis is very critical. And the second concept, which I have learned based on seeing so many clients getting transformation and shift in their life, is that works amazing. So first of all, like, see, in any relationship, we cannot escape. We cannot run away from it. Like, the moment it starts to get bad, we just tend to run away, right? That is not the solution, because we will attract another person. And like, it's like energy, same energy in a different body very soon, right? The next meetup. So that is not the solution, because we are attracting, our subconscious is built in a way that we are attracting a sort of energy in our reality. So the way, I mean, I have seen, like, first step, work with the person. Second step, if it doesn't, it's like, it's really, you gave your best, it's not getting resolved. So move away, setting the boundary, right? The third step is forgiveness is super important. Like, I think forgiveness is the single most powerful thing I've seen that works in the clients' lives, is like, and it's not easy, right? Just saying forgiveness, it's not easy. So there is a tool that works phenomenal with all of the clients I've seen. The best tool is writing whatever the pain, the trauma that has happened in the past, journaling, and just not writing because it still exists in the world, right? Burning it away, surrendering it, like burn it away. And then you see the difference, because we have seen that when people do writing and then burning, the relaxation they feel, it's amazing, and they can sleep so well. So, like, slowly, this practice is like helps them to release all of the pain and everything. So this is a very powerful exercise that people can do.
Thank you so much. And you'll notice many people are referring back to documentation and journaling, writing a diary. So important. Tanya?
I love the fact that it is imperative that we all are on the same page regarding sensitizing the situation, setting boundaries and detaching. I mean, these are all still words, but in practice, when I have my clients come to me for counseling, I always tell them, be wary of the 3 E's. These are the devils. When you are being exploited, when you are bound to make a person feel entitled, and when the person shows signs of envy. So exploitation, envy, and entitlement are the preliminary intimidating grounds, which will only want you to massage their egos. Mm-hmm. Also, a true character and integrity is only when, suppose you are at the receiving end of this victim card game, they are always going to make you feel these 3 things, which is the gas effect, which I tell my clients, which is making you feel guilt, showing some sort of aggression, and also shame, making you feel shameful for expressing a vulnerable aspect about you or being honest about it. And as all the people on the panel who are experts in the field have also said, it is difficult to confront this person directly. So always take the route of for an expert or the diary, whatever gives you more courage. And forgiving, easier said than done. Forgive, forget. I know it is really difficult, because then you end up feeling, does forgiving make me feel wrong? Am I wrong that that person gets the power because I'm forgiving them? But it is not that. It is more so to do with holding less grudges and taking more nudges. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So and I think it's you can forgive. You can, I wouldn't say forget about what happened, but don't repeat it. Because I think what people do is they go from one toxic relationship right into another because it's so addictive. Yeah. True. So thank you so much. Charan?
Yeah, so I think the only couple of things I want to add to everything is women mostly tend to be very emotional in a relationship, especially at the onset when we view everything with rose-tinted glasses. We want to believe in our fairy tale, ignore advice. We tend to ignore red flags. And we don't just do that subconsciously, but many times we're doing it even knowingly, because as I said, we want to get to a happy ending for a fairy tale. So I think the first thing we have to do is take off our rose-tinted glasses, be conscious, become aware. And this session today is perhaps the first for many of us, gaining knowledge and gaining this awareness about what the symptoms of narcissism are and how to deal with everything. And the second point I want to make is it's very unfortunate, but many Indian traditions feed narcissism. So we shouldn't just accept things because that's how they've always been done, and this gets fed to us through our upbringing, through the traditions that we still follow. We are perhaps unknowingly also passing along these traditions to our kids. So I think we need to take a closer, deeper look, sift through these traditions and ensure that they comply with this new world where we are more acknowledging of everybody else. Self-love exists, but without self-obsession. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you. And last but not least, Sheena.
Yeah, I think everyone shared great tools in order to, I guess, recover from narcissistic abuse. And I really, really think that everyone had a great point. Something that I have used is just turning to counseling, seeing a therapist, and having that just be more normalized, as I feel like that is something that a lot of South Asians are kind of fearful of turning to. And I think that we should normalize that. However, today I wanted to just end my portion with a quote from the scholar Malala Yousafzai, and it says, "I raise up my voice, not so that I can shout, but so that those without a voice can be heard. We cannot all succeed when half of us are held back." Thank you.
Thank you, Sheena. Thank you so much. We're almost at the end of our show. Before we wrap up this show, and I really hope everybody has enjoyed it as much as I have. I found it I find talks like this to be very therapeutic, even for myself, even at 62. Many people think, oh, you're so strong, Miss Renu, you've done this, you've done that. In actual fact, not. I go for therapy, I watch as many shows, I tune in and listen to other people. And how I've managed to move out of a lot of negativity and toxic relationship is setting boundaries. I do like to confront sometimes. I feel confrontation sometimes helps. Certain people need confrontation. You can't necessarily just walk away from everyone. But my tool for life is love yourself and decide who's going to be in your life. Because everyone that comes in that inner circle and around you is going to impact you directly. You have your negative and your positive, electrons. And if you're going to hang out with the negativity and you're even going to have them as part of your life, there's never going to be balance. So choose your friends wisely, choose your social circle wisely, and learn to love yourself from who you are. So before we wrap up, I hope today's show was successful, and I hope to see more of these. The whole purpose of this Building Women Empowered group right from the beginning is to bring women together, not just on social media to post one or two quotes and pictures and things like that, but to actually make a difference in the lives of yourself and others. So before we wrap up, please, only 30 seconds now so that we can wrap up on time and be proud of sticking to our time for our show. Is everybody, just 30 seconds, tell me why you're part of Building Women Empowered. I'd like to know why you're part of this group and why did you want to be part of this show? So let's begin with our first speaker, Ashima from Kenya.
Hi again. I know my journey has been hard. And the reason I have become empowered because from a very insecure person in my marriage, I went across and I became this very confident and achieved person in my life, which I never thought I would be able to do. And because of that, I would like to encourage women to know that anything is achievable in your life when you set your mind to it. And that's the reason I want to be empowered and give that empowerment to women. Thanks.
Thank you, Ashima. Thank you. Anjana.
So I have fallen flat on my face, dusted myself off, got back myself together, and I have enough tenure, and I've done the same thing at the workplace too. So I believe I can be a role model, set an example, and help other women to, I've connected with so many beautiful and wonderful women, and what I do, how I do, I think people can always look up to me and see, oh, Anjana is doing this. Okay, let me have that confidence in myself as well. Just be a role model and be here.
Thank you. Anjina.
I think the reason why I'm part of this group is, I think one of the words that we use is empowering. As women, we all go through the same things. We're made the same way, and our experiences are what builds us as a person. And I think being able to share those experiences and empowering other women that don't have the strength or the ability to recognize what they're going through, I think helping those is really important. And this platform is very valuable for that. So thank you for that, Renu. I truly appreciate that.
Thank you. Gauri.
So I'm an empowered woman because I live my life trying to make myself the best version of myself that I can be. And a lot of people, especially women, have told me that they feel inspired. So I'm here to inspire and to feel inspired by all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Kanika.
Yes. So being a singer, artist, performer in the Bay Area, I mingle with a lot of people. I meet a lot of people. And a lot of things have happened to me. There's so many groupisms, so many places I could have been a part of. But I wanted to show people that not you don't want to be greedy for opportunities. You want to be greedy for love and respect. Just don't count your success by the number of things you do, but the quality of things you do. And the quality comes with the kind of social circle you have, the kind of network, the kind of people you have on your team. So choose wisely who you want to be associated with. Use your brain and you will know it. So thank you.
Absolutely. Your net worth is what comes from your networking, and your networking is your people that impact you in a positive manner. Kushi, Dr. Kushi.
Yep. So I'm part of this group because I strongly believe in creating a supportive community for women to uplift and inspire each other. So I'm here to inspire and get inspired.
Thank you. Nina.
Yeah, I'm part of this group because I believe in like the power of meaningful connections, lifting each other up, sharing knowledge, networking, and just having a general supportive environment for folks. So yeah, I'm really proud of being part of this community and giving back.
Thank you. Ranjita.
You know, in a culture we say, right? That's what I learned from you. You are giving back a lot of things to all these women right here. And that what got me into it. Like what I'm doing right now in my job too. That's what I do. Like I do my karma, you know, what I have learned, I'm giving back to them and doing what is best for myself. And joining your group, it empowers me. Reading every single day the quotes that you put on Facebook, that empowers, I think, a lot of women in our group, as well as what they are taking away from that group. You know, it means a lot. It really means a lot. So giving back, that's what I learned from you and our group. So
thanks,
that's the
Ranjita.
reason
And thank
I'm
you
there.
for always participating. You participate in everything we do, and I really appreciate that. You always find the time. Thank you so much.
A little bit.
Ragini.
Thank you, Renu. So yeah, just like, whatever you are doing, it connects with me a lot more because, you know that what I'm doing right now is like, building this platform too. And that's why there is a connection and I'm here to support that cause. The other thing is that according to me, like I believe life is finding your purpose, right? That's what, I believe. Once you find your purpose, whatever the truth that your truth is, it can be different people, but so that's where I believe like my passion, my purpose is to connect more people with spirituality, personal transformation, growth, something that can make you your better version, right? So that's where I'm connected with this tribe, and that's my passion and calling to do.
Thank you. Tanya.
There's been so much which has already been said. I literally can't put a finger on when this group caught my attention and how this happened. I just remember Renu put this post and I'm like, I gotta be part of this. I need to connect with like-minded people. As you also mentioned, I rather speak to like 8 people than have like 50 people who have nothing in common with. And in commonality, I just don't mean because we have to only hang out with the same kind of people, but also you get to learn so much. Like I think as I did, as everybody else did, it's not about, you know, the ageism or, you know, somebody's inferior or somebody's superior. The fact that it ties everybody together in the same spirit, the same level, and also looking at everybody with the same perspective even is something which is very fair and something which I appreciate. So thank you for having us and making this happen.
Thank you so much. Charan.
Yeah, I think all of us are echoing the same sentiments,
Yes.
just in our own words. Empowerment comes from our tribe, and this group is very quickly becoming my tribe, sharing our experiences, you know, providing support to each other, holding each other's hands when needed. Everything contributes to, I think, my personal mental and emotional strength as we take small little steps. And I think the bigger purpose behind this is I would like to continue and inspire more women to take control of their lives, get support, regain their self-respect and independence, and continue to become stronger.
Thank you. And last but not least, Sheena. And Sheena, don't say mom told you to join the group, whatever you do, okay?
No, you didn't actually. and I'm not part of BWE just for the Vegas groups or events. I am here because I feel like even if one woman hears our conversation today and it changes even one person's life, that would have made the last hour and a half so much more worth it. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. I really appreciate this conversation.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to wrap up with why I want everyone to continue to be part of this group and what my vision is for the group. But before I do that, I want to individually thank every single one of you. I want to thank Ashima. I know it's 4 a.m. in the morning in Kenya, and thank you for tuning in. Anjana, thank you so much. You're always there for everything that we do, so I really appreciate that. Thank you, Anjina. Thank you, Gauri. I know in India it's some odd hours, but hopefully if you're watching Pathan movie, you're motivated with the John Abraham's body to get up early morning and see the movie. Everyone's been telling me to go, so I definitely want to go see that. Thank you. Kanika, thank you. You're always, everything that we do at Building Women Empowered, you're always part of it. Thank you so much. Dr. Kushi, thank you again. I know you're not well, and I appreciate you coming on. Nina, thank you so much. You are so experienced in this field, and thank you for sharing so much information and posting in the chat for people to read and understand. Ranjita, I already said thank you. You're always there to support our events. Yeah, and I love your little hearts that you do. Ragini, thank you for being an amazing co-host. It's been great. There was hopefully no technical issues. I hope we have been streaming on Facebook. I've been so busy. Oh, good, great. So thank you. And I will be taking this recording as well and making it a formal recording on our YouTube as well. And anyone wants it for their own platforms, let me know. Tanya, thank you. It's the first time you've come on our group, and I really appreciate everything that you said. Charan, thank you so much. I think you're based on the East Coast, right? Yeah, so thank you. And of course, Sheena, thank you for always saying yes to mom. Well, you don't say yes all the time, but thank you. And in closing, what I would like to say for all those who listened in, that please join, you know, Building Women Empowered is not about, like I said, quotes. I mean, I love putting my quotes out there. I like writing blogs, but it's not about me. It's about the rest of you. It's about everyone. And I'd like to see this group grow into a global community where we can actually start having events in different cities, because it's not just about being here in the Bay Area. And for me, woman empowerment is a magic that happens when a woman realizes that not only does she belong in the room, but there is a seat at the table with her name on it, regardless of who she is, where she comes from, whether she's married, single, it doesn't matter, or who else is at that table. A woman, an empowered woman, is someone that can go sit wherever she wants to sit and not feel that she has to be made welcome. And if you feel these empowered goals resonate with you, then please join us in all our discussions, all our events. Please start a chapter in your own local city, your own area, and let's take this to another level, because this is what this is about. This is not about, this is not a commercial platform by any means at all. This is a platform really to bring us all together. And if anything, networking. Everybody's net worth has increased today because you've all connected with one another. So on that note, thank you so much. And again, Ragini, thank you, and thank you all. And hopefully we'll see you next time. And if you have any ideas for your next topic, if everyone's game for this, then message us and let's make sure that we bring this show back on next month with another interesting topic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.